Hello. In this video, I'm going to show you how to register an existing cluster with Nirmata. So as you can see, I'm already logged in into my Nirmata account, which has a couple of clusters in it. If you don't have a Nirmata account, you can sign up for free at nirmata.io. So to register a cluster, I'm going to select the clusters panel from the left-hand side and click on Add Cluster. The first option says Manage an existing cluster, which is what we want to do. So I'm going to type in a cluster name, and in fact, for this demo, I'm going to, register the cluster running on my local laptop, which is managed by Docker Desktop. So we'll call it Gym Laptop, and we'll leave the cloud providers other, and we'll select a cluster policy, which will install add-on services that are configured in this policy. We'll kick off the registration, and then I'll show you what's in this policy. So importing a cluster and registering it requires, once we have uh, done this provisioning step in Nirmata, we need to download the YAML and install that in my local cluster. So what this does is it'll create a bidirectional secure communication path between my cluster and Nirmata. So from my command line, and if I check with kubectl just to make sure I have access to my cluster, this is my local cluster, and as you can see, it just has some default namespaces. I'm going to go ahead and run the YAML that we just downloaded, which should be in my users directory. And this will run a controller, which will connect back into Nirmata with a secure ID, which only this cluster can use. And at that point, then the cluster will be ready for us to manage through Nirmata or through the command line itself. So that's how easy the process was. And as you can see, the controller is connected back. It went into ready. It will start collecting information from my cluster. And also based on the policy that we have configured, it will kick off tasks to install the add-on services that we had specified. So here, as you can see, it's already installing this add-on, which is Kyverno, the open source Kubernetes native policy management tool. And let me show you how this policy was configured to allow this to get kicked off. So if I look for a policy, so I have a number of different cluster install policies here. I'm looking for one which is the default add-ons, which is what we selected. And that is where we have specified we want to use Kyverno as an add-on service on this cluster. So if I go back to my command line, and if I check my namespaces now, I should see that Kyverno is already installed and Nirmata is already installed. So at this point, I can use the cluster through kubectl, but I can also go ahead and provision environments in Nirmata, which are secure virtual clusters, which get configured with namespaces as well as RBAC policies, network policies, and pod security. And I can then also deploy applications. So let's take a quick look at how to do that. So I'm going to go into my new cluster that I just registered. And from there, I'm going to say create the environment. So by the way, Nirmata already discovered the existing namespaces and auto-created environments from this. But I'm going to go ahead and create a new environment, which I'll just call demo. And we will run a simple application in it. So I can select a type, a size from my environment. I'm going to stay with medium. And once I create that environment, I see that I'm ready to run applications in this. When the environment got created, there were also RBAC rules, like I mentioned, resource quotas, all of this that automatically gets set up. And now let's run an application from our catalog. So we have the option of catalog or using a upstream Git repo to run the application. And if from my catalog, I have Ghost, which is a microblogging platform already installed. So I'll go into my demo catalog and just search for Ghost. And we can run that application into our new cluster. So Nirmata is now already deploying the application. I can always go and look at the tasks to see exactly what's being sent. So I see that there were three API calls that were made. You can even drill down and see exactly what, the details of the YAMLs, et cetera, were sent. But this application should be up and running. We can also go check for the same state. Now, if we go back into our command line, look at the namespaces, we see that we have a new namespace called demo, which is what we created. And if I do -n demo and look at the pods running in there, I should see that Ghost is already up and running. So that's how easy it was to register a cluster, to bring up an application, and to run it, in this cluster. You also get of course, all of the other features of managing clusters that are in Nirmata at this point. But hopefully, this gives you a quick idea of how to get started with existing clusters. Thank you.